On.
Hello everyone, my name is Ram Younger, and today I am presenting to you It is more than monsters and jump scares. A look at what actually makes good horror.
Gas.
Thank you. So why is it important to know what makes a good horror story? Well, there are a few reasons. One, there's so much horror out there. You have slashers, you have ghost stories, gothic, psychological, comedy, cosmic. There are so many subgenres. It's like a candy store of subgenres of horror. One I would not eat at, but you get the idea. It's just a very varied genre, so it's important to know this kind of stuff. Two, it's a successful genre in it of itself. 2017's It made $700 million at the global box office, based on a budget of $35 million. That's 20 times over. That is highly successful. And this is just one example of many films over the years that have done that, made tons of money on a relatively small budget. And horror has always been a lens through which to process and understand the world around us. Take, for instance, the phenomenal film Get Out, which surprised audiences and caused a ton of discussion about race relations in America. It is a phenomenal social film while also being a phenomenal horror film. And it's not the only one. Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol is a ghost story that talks about the treatment of the poor, especially around Christmas time in Victorian England. And why should you care about all this? I mean, I just gave reasons why it's important to know, but why should you care? Well, besides the fact that I've got a novel coming out, and that I'm holding you hostage here, but making this the subject of my presentation, everyone's fascinated with what scares them. Even if they're not fans of horror, we're always fascinated by what scares us. We're always looking into news stories about things that might scare us, whether that be different politics or that actually happened, a cloud of spiders hanging overhead in Brazil. Yeah, I saw a few heads come up. That scares you in and of itself. So, a couple of things I wanted to let you know. This is not what horror is. This is what people have in their minds, but it's not what horror is. Horror is not just a bunch of people running around, getting killed in gruesome acts after committing all sorts of illicit or sinful acts. That's usually just slasher films, and only the ones from the late 80s. But for some reason, that's what most people have in mind of horror if they're not fans of the genre. And that's really only a small subsection of horror stories. It's also more than just a scary monster, or human or otherwise. That's just one aspect. And it is more than just a jump scare. There's a very good reason I bring that up. Jump scares. People seem to think of a good horror movie is good if it has lots of jump scares. And while jump scares are one form of horror, they're not the most important thing. Let me demonstrate something. Steph, can you hit the lights?
I need to cover my eyes.
Seen it.
So I'm pretty sure I saw a couple of you jump. Steph, can you hit the lights again? And yeah, you jumped, you were a little scared, but right afterwards you were fine, right? All the fear went away. The jump scares are the easiest scare to get, but they're also the most fleeting. And they are far from what makes a good horror story. There are actually three types of scare, three types of terror that go into a horror story, and it's important to have an equal balance of each. There's the gross out, which is like the blood, the gore, the creepy skeleton you find in a basement. There's horror, and that's the monster aspect. That's the scary corpse that comes up from the table. That's a giant spider. That's the floating woman with her head underneath her arm. And then you have the terror. This one is a bit more abstract, but it's kind of like that feeling of dread you get walking down a dark hallway where you feel like something terrible is about to happen. Stephen King codified these three concepts, and honestly, he makes a very good point. You have to have a good balance of these factors in order to really make a good scary story. That, and you have to put into play a lot of other concepts. It's not just putting in a monster and expecting people to get scared. That's a lot of people who try to do horror at first think that it's what they need to do, but there are a lot of things you have to keep in mind while writing horror. For one, then you have to keep in concepts like the uncanny valley. And that's the idea that as something that looks human but becomes less human, then to you, as it goes, it starts to become scarier to you. This is why some people are afraid of dolls or scarecrows or clowns, because they look somewhat human, but they're also not human, which scares people. Other concepts could be just basic ideas or just traits of a certain type of story. For example, Gothic novels tend to have four main traits to them. All the horror comes from a single location. There's usually a dark history. There's a sense of decay, either physical or maybe mental. And corruption of the innocent. Someone's going to have their innocence taken away from them. You can see all of these concepts in play in books like The Shining or Kill Creek, one of the most recent Gothic novels to come out in recent years. One of the best Gothic novels to come out in recent years. And honestly, one I recommend to everyone. All this and more goes into writing a good horror story, plus characterization, character development, pacing, tone, beginning, middle, and end, grammar, spelling, and punctuation, etc. All the normal conventions of storytelling. Steph, can you get the lights one more time? If I'm going to sum up this, though, there's just one thing I want to say. A good horror story, keeping all these concepts in mind is what makes the difference between a good horror story like Overlord